Assalamu alaikum, dear students of HSC group. You all are welcome to my HSC online class. How are you? Hope you all are fine by the grace of Almighty Allah. Now we are passing a very critical moment. Day by day the patients of COVID-19 are increasing in our country. But I hope very soon we will overcome this problem. Again, we will return to our green and glorious Rajshahi College campus. I think this online class will help you to continue your study at home. Today I am here to discuss about punctuation and its use. Before going to discussion, here is the outline of today's class. First of all, we'll discuss the history of punctuation. Why do we need punctuation marks, types of punctuation marks, how we use them, and some exercises for practice. History of punctuation. The beginning of punctuation lies in classical rhetoric, the art of oratory. Back in ancient Greece and Rome, when a speech was prepared in writing, marks were used to indicate where and how long a speaker should pause. Punctuation derived from the Latin word punctum, which means a small distinct point. Until the introduction of printing in the late 15th century, punctuation in English was decidedly unsystematic and at times virtually absent. Many of Chaucer's manuscripts, for instance, were punctuated with nothing more than periods at the end of verse lines, without regard for syntax or sense. One of the first to codify the rules of punctuation in English was the playwright Ben Jonson, or rather Ben Jonson, who included the colon in his signature. In the final chapter of the English grammar, 1640, Jonson briefly discusses the primary functions of the comma. Parenthesis, period, colon, question marks, that is the interrogation, and exclamation point, the admiration. Why do we need punctuation? Punctuation allows the author's writing to be easy to read and understandable for the reader. And why to punctuate? Dear learners, punctuation marks are symbols that indicate the structure and organization of written language, as well as intonation and pauses to be observed when reading aloud. In written English, punctuation is vital to disambiguate the meaning of sentence. Here are two examples. Correct punctuation can save a person's life. Here are two lines, let's eat grandpa and let's eat comma grandpa. So there is a vast difference between let's eat grandpa and let's eat comma grandpa. And the power of punctuation, an English professor asked the students to punctuate the following. A woman without her man is nothing. This is the line, and all of the males in the class wrote, a woman without her man, comma, is nothing. And all the females in the class wrote, a woman, colon, without her, comma, man is nothing. So dear learners, you see that because of punctuation mark, the total meaning of the sentence has been changed. So in case of writing, we have to use properly punctuation marks, rather it will change the meaning of the sentence. Here are some punctuation marks, and you can see a punctuation tree. There are full stop or period, ellipses, marks, comma, colon, semicolon, question mark, exclamation mark, quotation marks, parenthesis, apostrophe, hyphen and dash. These are the punctuation marks. Now we will discuss one after another. First of all, full stop. When and where we use full stop? Here are the rules. Use a full stop at the end of complete sentence that is a statement. For example, I know that you would never break my trust intentionally. And at the final of the statement, we will use full stop. If the last word in the sentence ends in a full stop, do not use another full stop after it. For example, I know that MD, M full stop, dot full stop, and after this full stop, we have not to use another full stop. She is my sister-in-law. That is, I know that MD, she is my sister-in-law. Next, ellipsis marks, and the rules are: the 3-dot method is used for ellipsis marks. Use no more than 3 marks whether the omission occurs in the middle of the sentence or between sentences. For example, original sentence, the regulation states all agencies must document overtime or risk losing federal funds, and rewritten using ellipses is the regulation states, comma, inverted comma, all agencies must document overtime, dot dot dot, and the end of inverted comma. This is the use of ellipses. And now comma. We have a lot of uses of comma. To avoid confusion, use commas to separate words and word groups with a series of 3 or more. For example, my property is to be split among my husband, comma, daughter, comma, son and nephew. Omitting the comma after son would indicate that the son and nephew would have to split 1/3 of the property. So we have to use comma, and use a comma to separate 2 adjectives when the word and can be inserted between them. He is, for example, he is strong, comma, healthy man. Actually the sentence should be he is a strong and healthy man. So here comma is used instead of and. Use commas before or surrounding the name or title of a person directly addressed. Directly addressed. A person name directly addressed. And for example, will you, Aisha, do that assignment for me? Will you, comma, Aisha, comma, do that assignment for me? So here Aisha is addressed. So before Aisha, before and after a comma will be used. Yes, comma, doctor, comma, I will. Yes, doctor, I will. But when you address doctor, so before that a comma and after that a comma should be used. Use a comma to separate the day of the month from the year and after the year. For example, she talked to her husband on December 5th, comma, 2003, comma, in Mill Valley, comma, California. So here you can see the use of comma. December 5, comma, and the year 2003, comma. If any part of the date is omitted, leave out the comma. That is, they talked in December 2003, comma, in Mill Valley. Here the date is already omitted. Use commas to set off expressions that interrupt the flow of the sentence. For example, I am, as you have probably noticed, very nervous about this. So you see the use of comma, I am, comma, as you have already, or as you have probably noticed, comma, very nervous about this. So use of commas to set up expressions that interrupt the flow of the sentence. Here you see. And if something or someone is sufficiently identified, the description of following it is considered non-essential and should be surrounded by commas. For example, Freddy, comma, who has a limb, comma, was the only person available with required qualification. Rule number 7. When starting a sentence with a weak clause, use a comma after it. Conversely, do not use a comma when the sentence starts with a strong clause followed by a weak clause. So here are two examples. If you are not sure about this, comma, let me know now. Let me know now. So first clause is weak. So after a weak clause, we will use a comma, then the strong clause, and just the topsy-turvy of this sentence. Let me know how. Let me know now if you are not sure about this. So here is no comma. So dear students, please I repeat, when starting a sentence with a weak clause, use a comma after it, but do not use a comma when the sentence starts with a strong clause followed by a weak clause. Rule 8. Use a comma to separate two strong clauses joined by conjunction and, or, but, for, nor, etc. You can omit the comma if the clauses are both short. For example, I have painted the entire house, comma, but he is still working on sanding the doors. Another example, I paint and he writes. So here is no comma. Here we should not use any comma. Rule 9. Use the comma to separate two sentences if it helps to avoid confusion. For example, I choose the colors red and green, comma, and blue was his first choice. So I repeat rule 9. Use the comma to separate two sentences if it helps to avoid confusion. I choose the colors red and green, comma, and blue was his first choice. Rule 10. Use commas to introduce direct quotations shorter than 3 lines. He actually said, comma, inverted comma starts, I do not care, inverted comma close. So here direct quotation, that is I call when we use it in narration, direct speech and indirect speech. So this is a direct speech. He actually said, comma, I do not care, full stop. Use a comma to separate a statement from a question. Use a comma to separate a statement from a question. That is, for example, I can go, comma, can't I? Question marks. Okay, rule 12. Use a comma to separate contrasting parts of a sentence. Contrasting parts of a sentence. For example, that is my money, comma, not yours. Use a comma when beginning sentences with introductory words such as well, now, or yes. For example, yes, comma, I do need that report. So we can use comma after well, or now, or yes, etc. Another example, well, I never thought I'd live to see the day, full stop. So after well, we use comma. Rule 14. Use commas surrounding words such as therefore and however when they are used as interrupters. For example, I would, comma, therefore, comma, like a response. Actually, we have to stop, or we have to stay some while when we use comma. I would comma, therefore comma, like a response, full stop. And I would be happy, I'd be happy comma, however comma, to volunteer for the Red Cross, full stop. Okay, now we will discuss about colon. Here are the rules of colon. Use the colon to introduce a list of items when introductory words such as namely, comma, for example, comma, or that is do not appear. So for example, I want the items namely, comma, butter, comma, sugar, comma, and flour. And when we use this sentence, when we apply colon in this sentence, then the sentence will be I want the following items, colon, butter, comma, sugar, comma, and flour. So here is the use of colon. A colon should not precede a list unless it follows a complete sentence. For example, I want an assistant who can, number 1, input data, number 2, write reports, and number 3, complete tax forms. So we can apply colon by using the following rules. I want an assistant who can do the following, colon, number 1, input data, number 2, write reports, and number 3, complete tax form. So dear learners, I think you are very clear from this example that how we can use colon. Use a colon when the second clause explains the first clause and no conjunction is being used to connect the clauses. If only one sentence follows the colon, do not capitalize the first word of the new sentence. If 2 or more sentences follow the colon, capitalize the first word of each sentence. Here is the example. I enjoy reading, colon, novels by Kurt are my favorite. Another example, garlic is used in Italian cooking, colon, it greatly enhances the flavor of pasta dishes, colon, and it also enhances the flavor of eggplant. So here is another use of colon, you see. And in number 4, rule 4, use the colon to introduce a direct quotation that is more than 3 lines in length. In this situation, leave a blank line above and below the quoted material. Single space the long quotation, indent 1/2 inch on both the left and right margins, and quotation marks are not used. For example, the author wrote in the first chapter, colon, Georgia went back to her room and stared at the intricate patterns of burned moth wings in the clear glass of the overhead light. She felt herself as pitiable as the burnt moth. She could not manage the stress and anxiety she was experiencing this moment. The world was seeming odd to her. So here is another use of colon, and after that we will discuss about semicolon. Rules how to use semicolon. Use a semicolon in place of full stop to separate 2 sentences where the conjunction has been left out. For example, call me tomorrow, colon, I'll give you my answer then. And after using colon, you have to stay some while. And another example, I have paid my dues, colon, therefore comma, I expect all the privileges listed in the contract. Rule number 2, use the semicolon to separate units of a series when one or more of the units contain commas. For example, this conference has people who have come from Lahore, Pakistan, semicolon, Bombay, India, semicolon, and Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, full stop. So here is the separate of unit. You can separate the unit using semicolon. That is Lahore and Pakistan. This is a unit. Bombay and India, this is another unit, and Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, another unit. So you can use semicolon to separate units of a series. Next rule, use the semicolon between two sentences that are joined by a conjunction but already have one or more commas within the first sentence. For example, when I finish here, comma, I will be glad to help you, semicolon, and that is a promise I will keep. So if I read the sentence, when I finish here, I will be glad to help you, and that is a promise I will keep. So you have to stay for a while for comma, and you have to stay for sometimes for semicolon, and it will help you understand the sentence, understand the meaning of the sentence. If she can, comma, she will attempt that feat, semicolon, and if her husband is able, comma, he will be there to see her. So if I read in this way, that if she can, she will attempt that feat, and if her husband is able, he will be there to see her. Okay, dear learners, now we will discuss about question mark and the rules of question mark. Where we will use question mark. Number 1, use a question mark only after a direct question. For example, will you go with me? Question mark. I asked if he would go with me. That is the question, but that is we want to know. Will you go with me? Okay, number 2, use the question mark when a sentence is half statement and half question. For example, you do care, comma, don't you? That is half statement and half question. Exclamation marks, note of exclamation, and you use exclamation points to show emphasis or surprised. Do not use the exclamation point in formal business letters. For example, I am truly shocked by your behavior. Note of exclamation. Again, I repeat the sentence. I am. Here is a comma. Truly shocked by your behavior, and at last we use note of exclamation. Quotation marks. When and why we will use quotation marks. Number 1, rule 1, full stops and commas always go inside quotation marks. For example, she said, comma, inverted comma starts here, and you need not to hurry up, and inverted comma ends here. So full stop and comma always go inside quotation marks, and the placement of question marks with quotes follows logic. If a question is in quotation marks, the question mark should be placed inside the quotation marks. For example, she asked, comma, inverted comma starts, will you still be my friend? Question marks, and inverted comma ends. And do you agree with the saying, comma, inverted comma starts, all's fair in love and war? And here is a question mark, and inverted comma ends here. So here we learn the rules of quotation marks. Here are some more rules of quotation marks. When you have a question inside quoted material and inside quoted material, use only one question mark and place it inside the quotation marks. For example, did she say, comma, may I go? Inverted comma starts and ends. May I go is inside the quotation marks. Use single quotation marks for quotes within quotes. For example, he said, comma, inverted comma starts, Daniel said, comma, then single quotation starts, do not treat me that way, full stop, and end of single quotation and double quotation. So, dear learners, use single quotation marks for quotes within quotes. And number 5, rule 5, use quotation marks to set off a direct quotation only. For example, when will you be there? He asked. So first of all, you can see the inverted comma quotation marks starts and here ends, and after that a comma and he asked. And we can say in this way, he asked, when will you be there? So this is direct speech and this is indirect speech. Number 6, do not use quotation marks with quoted material that is more than 3 lines in length. Then another punctuation mark, that is parenthesis, and when and where we will use parenthesis. Number 1, use parenthesis to enclose words or figures that clarify or are used as an aside. For example, I expect $500, and here is the parenthesis within bracket $500. And he finally answered after taking 5 minutes to think. Here is another use of parenthesis, that is bracket, after taking 5 minutes to think. He finally answered after taking 5 minutes to think that he did not get the question. And another parenthesis after, inside the bracket. Commas could have been used in the above example. Parentheses show less emphasis or importance. So here you can also use comma, that is indicated here, that commas could have been used in the above example. Parentheses show less emphasis or importance. So if you use comma, then the sentence will be, he finally answered, comma, that he did not get the question. And number 2, rule 2, use full parenthesis to enclose numbers or letters used for listed items. For example, we need an emergency physician who can, number 1, think quickly, number 2, treat patients respectfully, and number 3, handle complaints from the public. Number 3, full stop, go inside parenthesis only if an entire sentence is inside the parenthesis. For example, please read the analysis, and inside the parenthesis I have enclosed it as attachment A. And another example, please read the analysis, attachment A. So in this way we use parenthesis. And dear learners, now we will go for apostrophe. And here are the rules of apostrophe. Use the apostrophe with contractions. The apostrophe is always placed at the spot where one or more letters have been removed. For example, don't, do not, we can use don't instead of do not. Isn't, you are right, you are right. She's a great teacher. She is, we can use she's a great teacher. So here is the use of apostrophe. Use the apostrophe to show possession. Place the apostrophe before the S to show in singular position. That is, for example, one boy's hat, one child's hat. So names ending in S or an S sound are also required to have the second S added. Mr. Jones Golf Club, Mr. Less's book. So here Jones apostrophe S, Less apostrophe S. So that is the another use of apostrophe. And rule 3, use of apostrophe where the noun that should follow is implied. For example, this was his father's. This was his father's, apostrophe S, comma, not his, comma, jacket. So if we read, this was his father's, not his jacket. To show plural possession, make the noun plural first, then immediately use the apostrophe. For example, two boys' hats, two actresses' hats, two women's hats, two children's hats. So these are the examples of apostrophe. And number 5, with a singular compound noun, show possession with apostrophe S at the end of the word. For example, my mother-in-law's hat. My mother-in-law's hat. Here, in-law apostrophe S and then hat. So be careful in case of use apostrophe. And rule number 6, if the compound noun is plural, from the plural first and then use the apostrophe. For example, my two brothers-in-law's hats. Brothers-in-law's apostrophe S hats. Use the apostrophe and S after the second name only if two people possesses the same item. And that is, for example, Sarah's and Amna's job contract will be renewed next year. So here Sarah and Amna. Sarah apostrophe S and Amna apostrophe S. Sarah and Amna's job contracts will be renewed next year. Here indicates separate ownership. So Sarah and Amna indicate two separate ownership. And Sarah and Amna's job contracts will be renewed next year. Indicate joint ownership of more than one contract. So here is the difference. Sarah's and Amna's indicates separate ownership, and Sarah and Amna's job contracts indicate joint ownership. Rule number 8. Never use an apostrophe with possessive pronouns, that is his, hers, its, theirs, ours, yours, whose, etc. They already show possession, so they do not require an apostrophe. For example, correct example is this book is hers, not yours, and incorrect, sincerely yours. So I repeat rule 8, never use an apostrophe with possessive pronouns, that is his, hers, its, theirs, ours, yours, and whose. They already show possession, so they do not require an apostrophe. Here is the chart of apostrophe, and here this is usual text, and here text after using apostrophe. I am, we can use after using apostrophe I am. You are, we can say you are. She is, after using apostrophe she's. He is, after using apostrophe his. It is, we can say its. Do not, we can say don't. She would, should. He would, would. She would have, after using apostrophe you can say she would have. He would have, after using apostrophe you can say he would have. Let us, we can say let's, who is, whose, they had, that, and she'll, he will, we can say after using apostrophe, he'll. So here is the use of apostrophe, dear learners. And now we can say something about hyphen and the rules of hyphen. Number 1, to check whether a compound noun is 2 words or word or hyphenated, you may need to look it up in the dictionary. If you can't find the word in the dictionary, treat the noun as separate words. For example, eye witness, eye shadow, eye hyphen opener. Number 2, hyphenate all compound numbers from 21 to 99. I repeat, hyphenate all compound numbers from 21 to 99. For example, the teacher had 32 children in her classroom. He had 30-2 children in her classroom. Only 21 of the children were bilingual. Here 20-1. So these are the rules of hyphen, use of hyphen. And number 4, hyphenate all spelled out fractions. Hyphenate all spelled out fraction. For example, you need 1/3 of a cup of sugar for that recipe. You can need 1/3 of a cup of sugar. Here 1/3 is used. When adverbs other than ly adverbs are used as compound words in front of a noun, hyphenate. When the combination of words is used after the noun, do not hyphenate. For example, the well-known actress accepted her award. Well-known. The well-known actress accepted her award. The actress who accepted her award was well-known. So here is the difference between well-known and well without hyphen known. And number 2, second example, he got a much needed haircut yesterday. Much needed haircut, and his haircut was much needed. So the rule 4 is very important. I repeat, when adverbs other than ly adverbs are used as compound words in front of a noun, hyphenate. And when the combination of words is used after the noun, do not hyphenate. Rule 5. Generally, hyphenate between 2 or more adjectives when they come before a noun and act as a single idea. For example, friendly looking man. Friendly looking man. Number 6. Hyphenate all words beginning with self except for shellfish and selfless. For example, self-assured, self-respect, self-addressed. Here hyphen is used. So number 6 again, hyphenate all words beginning with self except for shellfish and selfless. Use a hyphen with the prefix x. For example, his ex-wife should for non-support. Ex-wife, ex-wife. Number 8, use the hyphen with the prefix re only when the re means again, and omitting the hyphen would cause confusion with another word. For example, will she recover from her illness? Question mark. He does not mean again. And another example, I have covered the sofa twice. I have recovered the sofa twice. He does mean again, and omitting the hyphen would have caused confusion with another word. Some more rules about hyphen. Hyphen have following uses: creating compound words. When we type or when we write compound words, we have to use hyphen. The well-known actor, well-known hyphen. well hyphen known actor. My 6-year-old daughter, 6-year-old, 6 hyphen year hyphen old daughter. The out of date curriculum, out hyphen of hyphen date curriculum. So here is the use of hyphen. Writing numbers 21 to 99 and fraction, we have to use hyphen. That is 5 eighths, 5 hyphen eighths, 1 hyphen fourth. Creating compounds on the fly for fly-by-night organizations. So here are the use of hyphen. Adding certain prefixes to words. When a prefix comes before a capitalized word or the prefix is capitalized, use a hyphen. That is non-English, non-English, a hyphen frame, I hyphen information, ityadi, etc. etc. The prefixes self, all and x hyphen nearly always require a hyphen. X hyphen husband, all hyphen inclusive, self hyphen control, etc. And when the prefix ends with the same letter that begins the word, you will often use the hyphen. For example, anti-intellectual, de-emphasize, but not always unnatural, coordinate, cooperate, etc. By all means, use a good dictionary when in doubt. For further information about compound nouns and compound modifiers, see the separate section of compound words. There is no space between a hyphen and the character on either side of it. Dear learners, now we will discuss the use of dashes. Number 1, N dash. An N dash named for the width of a typesetter's N key is a little longer than a hyphen. It is used for a span of time when you might otherwise use 2. For example, the years 2001 to 2003 had the use of N dash. January to June, here is the use of N dash, and an N dash is little longer than a hyphen. There is another dash which is called M dash, and M dash is longer than an N dash named for the width of a typesetter's M key. Don't use it just because you are uncertain about correct punctuation. In informal writing, M dashes may replace commas, semicolons, colons and parentheses to indicate added emphasis, an interruption or an abrupt change of thought. For example, you are the friend, the only friend who offered to help me. Here to M dash, which is longer than N dash. You are the friend, M dash, the only friend, M dash, who offered to help me. So the only friend, before this clause there are 2 dashes. Never have I met such a nice person, M dash, before you. So if we use M dash, then we have to make a dash which is longer than N dash. Now, dear learners, I have some exercises for you to practice. Punctuate the following passages and use capital letters where necessary. Number 1, exercise 1. Here all letters are written in small letters and there is no punctuation marks. You have to write down this passage in your khata, and after that you have to put punctuation marks and use capital letters where necessary. Angling is my hobby. Whenever I get time, I go on angling. On last Saturday, I went to a big lake near my village. I took an angling rod, bait, an umbrella, a towel, light refreshment, and some other necessary stuff. So after reading this passage, we got no sense. So we have to use punctuation mark to get sense. Here is the solution of exercise 1. Angling is my hobby. Full stop. Angling A is capital. Whenever here W is capital. Whenever I get time, comma, I go on angling. Full stop. On last Saturday, comma, I went to a big lake near my village. Full stop. I took an angling rod, comma, bait, comma, an umbrella, comma, a towel, comma, light refreshment, and some necessary stuffs. Full stop. So dear learners, after using full stop, comma, etc., we can understand the meaning of the passage very well. Now here is another exercise for you. The great ship Titanic sailed for New York from Southampton on 10 April 1912, carrying 1,316 passengers and a crew of 891 at that time. However, she was not only the largest ship but also unsinkable. Now first of all, you have to write down the passage in your khata, then put down the punctuation mark and use capital letters. And now I'll give the solution, and you have to match it whether it is correct or not with your answer. The great ship Titanic sailed for New York from Southampton on 10th April, 1912. Here is the date, and you already know that after date you have to use a comma. And 1912, carrying 1,316 passengers and a crew of 891. Full stop. At that time, comma, however, comma, she was not only the largest ship but also unsinkable. Okay, now we got the sense. After using punctuation mark, we know the meaning of the sentences, we got the sense of the sentences, and everything becomes clear. Without use of punctuation, we cannot understand the meaning of the sentence and we get no sense. Now exercise 3. Mount Everest, which is in the Himalayan mountains north of India between Nepal and Tibet, is over 29,000 feet above sea level. It was named after an English George Everest, who was the first to survey the Himalayas in 1841. Here is also another exercise for you. You have to write down in your khata and put your punctuation mark and capital letter where necessary, and after that you have to match with my answer whether it is correct or not. And here is the solution of exercise 3. Mount Everest, comma, here M is capital, Everest, E is capital, comma, which is in the Himalayan mountains, comma, north of India between Nepal and Tibet, comma, is over 29,000 feet above sea level. Full stop. So after using punctuation mark, we now understand the meaning of the sentence. It was named after an English, comma, George Everest, who was the first to survey the Himalayas in 1841. So this is the solution of exercise 3. Dear learners, please check it out whether it is correct or not with your answers. And thank you all for being with us. From today's class we learned the punctuation marks, its use, its history, and you have to practice it more and more to make a good result in examination. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you all. Allah Hafiz.